There's something in agriculture, there's something about facing a farmer, facing a retail store where we shit ourselves and we feel like we've got to be liked all the time.
Farmers, g'day and welcome back to the Farms Advice Podcast. Super keen on this episode to get it out. Sales is everywhere on farm. And if you don't think it is, you're probably doing it wrong. And this episode is going to be the best thing that you've listened to for a while. So whether you're selling sheep, you're taking them to the market, it's even how you present your sheep, whether that be in sale yards, cattle yards, or how you're presenting your grain, how you're calling up, how you're trying to maximize your marketability, your dollars through as well, because you don't want to go through the pain of growing something for 6 months, 8 months, and then you're shafted at the other end. You want to set yourself up. What are some good tactics as well? So I think from the farming sales side, how that we can prepare and improve what we're doing from the farm side, but also for industry to understand what farmers are going through and how they can best set up their relationships with farmers. And I think like within farming, there is a lot of loyalty to businesses and companies, and like that is staying true. But I think because we have more information at our fingertips, we're able to do searches, whether you're a farmer and you're not getting quotes all across the place, which you should. It is also cool to have this conversation with Georgia Stormont. She is sales coach for many businesses out there that get her in. And it's cool to dive into this. I love sales side of things. I'm in it a little bit now as well. But like I've always been selling through the podcast, marketing is selling through different mediums as well. So having this in your toolkit is a really good thing. So let's get into this episode. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Let me know what you think of this episode. If you see it on Instagram, on the socials, drop a comment, leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube as well. Thank you so much to Georgie for joining me on the podcast. Great to have her on and great to get into it. Let's go.
The goal, the book's just come out and the goal wasn't to make sales. And I am honest about that. Sales coming through and making money off that is awesome. And that is a goal. But the goal was to get people thinking about how they're selling more. And some of the wins that I've had and a lot of the failings that I've had are in that book to help people learn. But you're so right. You said there should be two goals and that we need to put ourselves first more. I love that you said that because that's what I notice when I'm in the sales, when I'm training teams. I'm keen to get your advice. There's something in agriculture. There's something about facing a farmer, facing a retail store where we shit ourselves and we feel like we've got to be liked all the time. And it's not, I'm noticing that it's not in other industries. It does come across in other industries. It's part of human nature. But I've spoken to someone, I got him on the podcast, a negotiation specialist, and he's been in pharmaceuticals and he's worked across government, defense, agriculture, a lot of different industries. And he says he really notices in ag that we have this perception that we constantly need to be liked in that position across from the farmer. Yeah.
And like I've even got examples of really good farmers, not always the most liked people, but like I'll get them on the podcast one day and I'll hopefully have that conversation of like, how do you deal with it? Is it even something that you deal with? Is it a conversation? Because if you're in your own circle and you're so comfortable with what you are and what you're doing, like people would pull strings at me. I have no idea about that. It's a pretty unique sort of position to be a young male doing the talking and trying to be that connection piece in there. Everyone will have their own stigmas with it, but I think we're the very first to apologize for putting ourselves out there for the betterment of industry. And yeah, I think if we put ourselves first, build the foundation, like for an ag tech company, if you keep sort of apologizing for that or whatever, you actually need income to be able to survive first. So if you don't have that selfishness, that approach to it, like the ability to close on conversations.
I don't know. Also, and I think because I've moved past it and I've done so much work on it, but why we feel bad asking for money in the transaction. I started sales when I was working at Coles. It was Bilo back when I first started, job at high school, and it's showing my age. Moved then Coles bought it out. And I never felt bad at the checkout there, taking people's money and bagging up their groceries. That was just a standard transaction. That's what I was employed to do. I was also employed to make conversation and make people feel comfortable when they were entering and exiting the shop, being helpful. And that's kind of how I've gone into my career in any form. I've always gotten that from my parents of, Georgia, no matter what you're doing, just be helpful in those moments. And I think then when I started at Fairbank Seeds in my first before that I worked for Murray Goulburn in the dairy industry. But it was really at Fairbanks where there was that real transactional sales rep role where I was selling vegetable seed to farmers. And it was uncomfortable, particularly early on, because I'm not off a farm, Jack. So I was learning, I was green, and I had to really, work closely with my team to work out how we did this. How do you ask someone for the sale? And I mucked it up and I didn't, and I'd leave it in their court a lot of the time. But we need to be profitable. I talk a lot about this when I do my training. A capitalist market, a competitive market is so powerful because it's so powerful for the consumer. And if you're going to constantly not ask for money, you will put yourself out of business. And likewise, I think we don't talk enough about when people are asking for discounts, if it's a farmer or a retail store constantly asking for discounts, having that honest conversation of being like, you want me in the market. Like, I don't work for free. The reason I'm asking for this money, this price is where it's at, is because it puts in everything, whether that's wages, rent, new machinery, whatever it might be, plus some money, that margin going back into the business so I can get you something better next year and the year after. If I'm not in the business, you got one less competitor. That keeps happening. You get a monopoly, and what happens? Quality turns to shit and your price goes up. And I don't know that we're comfortable enough having that conversation or thinking about it like that. Yeah.
Before we
Same,
do get
same
started,
kind of, yeah.
your internet, is it all good? Because you're breaking up or whatever a little bit.
Well, it looks fully 5 bars from my end, but it is just my Wi-Fi, Jack. So I can go onto my phone hotspot and we can try that.
Your Wi-Fi should be fine. It's just like if we lose a really good bit, I'd hate that.
Me too. So I don't know what to do. I
Uh,
think it's looking
Am I
like it's all
blurry
good.
for you?
No,
Yeah, righto.
no.
Righto. We'll get stuck into it. We'll find out a little bit more about Georgia Stormont and where she came from. I think there's such a cool story from those coming into agriculture that could enlighten us on farm, us in agribusiness, because we only know what we do know. So, Georgia, welcome to the Farms Advice podcast. Great to have you on.
Jack, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And like, this is a topic and area I've been reading on outside of agriculture. And I think if we can bring something in everyday business of what happens out there into, be it on farms, in agribusinesses, if you're an RM, having the conversation with the people, because we are so people first in agriculture. And as we spoke about before, we don't always put ourselves first, our business, so that we can float as rural and regional businesses, so that we can put some more money into R&D. So really excited for this conversation and also for Selling in the Paddock, the book. I got a little bit of a buzz out of it, Georgia, so I'm sure we'll get a buzz out of this episode.
Excellent. Well, I'm keen to, you got through it. You had no worries getting through it in time before the before the episode.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried. To be honest, I've got 10 or so pages to finish off at the
You've
end.
done most of it.
But like, there's some little things in there that once you understand in agriculture or even as a farmer, like how you set yourself up in a positive way, how much impact that can have. Like, how do you get into your flow, be it if you're on the phone at selling, talking to farmers, or even if like you're on farm organizing, whatever role you're in, if you can understand what your flow is, even my flow for this podcast, if everything's flustered as anything, it won't go well or smoothly. So I think like that really hit the mark. And as soon as I hit that part of the book, I think second chapter or first chapter, understanding yourself before others. And then I was just like, I couldn't put the book down really. And for yourself, Georgia, you're living it, you have lived it. And now you're educating us in agriculture, us in the paddock. Talk to me about your background. Where'd you all begin? Because you didn't come from the farm, you said before.
Nah, not off a farm, Jack. I'm currently I reside in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, so I'm based in Essendon, and I grew up in Strathmore, 2 suburbs away, so haven't moved far. But I had a family friend have a farm. The soldier settlement blocks if your grandfather went went out to war. They had a soldier settlement block just up in Romsey, so not too far from, from the city. And we'd go there on the weekends and slide down haystacks and get on horses and see the bulls changing paddocks and ride tractors and things. And I loved it. And I think a lot of people love the outdoors and a country escape. I think I just chased it a little bit more, Jack, than most. I just felt something really calming about when I got out there. And I really fell into it. I had no idea at the end of year 12, being 18, what I wanted to do. My school was not pressuring me, but said, engineering would probably be good for you. You're good at maths, Georgia. So I put that down. And then didn't get the scores, Jack. So I was like, shit, what am I going to do? And then I fell into natural resource management, which was I did a lot of studies with agriculture, botany, hort, animal science. And then finally got a gig working for Murray Goulburn, which was my first time away from the big smoke. I moved up to Cobram, up in northern Victoria, away from the family, and started working with dairy farmers. And I knew that this was my place. Working and sitting down with farmers and helping them provide food and fibre for the country was just where it was at. I felt a passion and a drive, and I've been doing it ever since. So from dairy, I moved to horticulture and spent the majority of my career in hort selling vegetable seed. And then 3 years ago, I thought I'm going to have a crack here and start my own business. And here we are, selling in the paddock.
Absolutely. What was the most uncomfortable thing going into agriculture and maybe shadowing a few people to begin with to learn the ropes a little bit?
I love that you use the word shadow. I did that a lot. And I learned that back where I worked at a gym, shadowing and watching someone do a process fully and then having a crack yourself. What was most uncomfortable going in and knowing nothing, having to ask lots of questions and feeling like I should know the answer was a lot of me pushing myself out of my comfort zone to put my hand up and say, I don't know. I'll find out and get back to you. There was a lot of nodding, I think, at the start of, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I had no idea what they were talking about. So just really sinking or swimming in that deep end.
I think for on farm as farmers, there's nothing more reassuring if someone comes on farm and says that they don't actually know this, but they're going to go back, they're going to have a look into it and see what information they can get back for you. Because if we are surrounded by yes people all of the time, following those processes, but if someone kicks back, if they don't know the information as well about that, but they're ready, they're curious, they're going to go find it, whether they're working for a big corporate down to the smaller local supplier in town. I think like that's a really good thing to have that awareness as well. Not just to
Yeah.
say, yep, I know that one and just like try to wedge yourself into it.
Which I
And
definitely did, Jack. Like I did that early on. Don't get me wrong. It can be part of my personality style to just kind of assume that we know and I'll work it out later. But it only gets you so far. And it did get me into strife a couple of times. And I found it early on much, much easier to say, hey, I don't know. I will find out and let people know when you're going to get back to them. Hey, end of the day, in half an hour, by the end of the week, whatever it is.
And now that you know a little bit more of the back end of the industry, as agriculture as a whole, where do we sit from a scale of 1 to 10 of we are quite confident within the sales realm for those like new graduates moving into those more experienced? Is there a lot of things that we can improve on? We touched on like just showing up as our brand, as ourselves on socials and what that can do for selling as well. Where's the huge opportunities that you're seeing at the moment?
For me, it is the first question you asked was where are we at? 1 to 10. And I'd say people coming out of uni, particularly the younger generation now, and the conversations I'm having with national sales managers, I reckon we're at a 2, Jack. And that's nothing against our industry at all. And I think that's pretty common when you're immature. The big thing I see in our industry is uni graduates or people coming in technically really hot in terms of they know their product knowledge, they know their soil science, they know their data, the technical aspects of things. That's where a lot of the generational shift is feeling really comfortable, that product knowledge. They've got absolutely no concept of people connection. They do unconsciously, Jack, and I don't want to sound like I'm having too much of a dig. That unconsciously, I think we're always learning that right from birth, how to connect with, your mum and dad and your brothers and sisters and then school and teachers and things. But people really haven't had conversations about, hey, how do I connect with this person? And I'm just going to go and show up and talk about my new product. when actually have we asked them what they might need or what's going on with their business? And I obviously go deeper into it into the book, Jack, but it's about firstly understanding yourself. So, like, I love personality profiling. I think that's a fabulous tool that organizations can use to help people understand their team, who they are, how they behave. And then when we know that, we can then kind of mirror out and start understanding, oh, okay, what's Jack like? How am I going to be able to connect with Jack? Or what is this person, how are they presenting to me? And how can I turn up in that conversation so that they can understand it most easily? I think it's removing the friction is my goal ultimately.
Yeah, I think friction is a huge thing in there. And like as you say, dealing with different people, maybe some people need that time because you broke it down into 4 different types. I can't remember what the framework was.
Yep. Know yourself,
But like
understand others, handling the hard bits, and driving it home, the close.
very good. So if we go back to the avatars of the different personalities that we're selling to and understanding who they are, what they may want or how they communicate, do they need time? Are they quite speedy? Do they have all the questions? And understanding them before selling to them?
Yeah. What I noticed when I was at Fairbanks Seas, Jack, I had a great manager, and I'd sit down and watch him sell, and I was like, that's incredible. And then I'd try and do it, and it just came off wrong. It just didn't feel right. And it took me a while to work out why, but we're different people, we're different personalities, we've got different energy. And so when we first understand the type of people we are, so I use DISC and talk about that in the book. I'm a high I, so energy, all about the people, Jack, love talking. If I'm connecting with a different personality style, it's understanding what type of personality are they and what do they need? Do they need as much chat as I do, or are they about the detail? Or do they like the steadiness? Or are they really direct and want an answer kind of right now? When we can kind of adapt ourselves to what the other person's after, it helps the conversations go so much smoother. And as we were talking about at the start, get into flow. We allow them to, it just is so much smoother.
You're still there.
I am.
Your image has stopped.
I
I'll
am here.
just break it up. I think, yes, there's the accomplishment of understanding your own flow, other people's flow. And then when that combines together, it can be like that magical moment of like you're thinking like the world is just flying ahead. You're unstoppable. People are receiving a great product, a great service, but you're also receiving that backing from them from purchasing from you. And I think like with that combination, it takes a long time to understand all of that and to have it like also on the go, unscripted. And because we're in agriculture, out in the paddock, in the flies in summer, in the frosty mornings, in winter, being under all types of environments within old your sales roles that you first started out as, it's quite beautiful once it does come together. And I think we can really find that on farm as well, because how many studs there are, and we're not born sellers as farming. We're really good at producing quality produce, products, animals through our genetics. But how we show up and how we talk about the genetics, or even have that ability to make it transactional when it needs to be transactional. What would you say for all of the studs out there that can improve on their sales approach, be it online or in person?
I think one of the key things that come up in the training room as well, and I love when you're talking about the studs and the value, is making sure that we're able to articulate or talk through that value. Now, what I see is that as a sales rep, now, Jack, I'm still on the tools, so I still consult and sell onion seed to the Australian market. I'm practicing still practice what I preach. It is in that experience, and going back to Fairbanks and Murray Goulburn days, we assume that we know what the value is because we've done the trials. We see the color of that new baby leaf lettuce, or the color of the stock, or the breeding genetics, or whatever it might be. We're like, oh, this is the value's there. This is what it values for my business. And we forget to think about what the value will be for the other person. Right. And so it's just constantly slowing down and thinking, right, how can I find out what the value is to this person? And let's forget about what I think the value is. When we can let go of what we think the value is, of like, oh, look at its, breeding weight or marble score, whatever it might be. When we can get to understand about what they're after in the purchase, we can then articulate whether or not we have the right product for them. I think that's the crux of it. We muck up the order of diagnosing and pitching, and we go in and try and pitch or sell too early. when we can uncover what's going on for that person, their business, what they're after. And in a stud situation, it might be week to week or month to month. That might change. And even though we have a really good relationship with this person, still asking some great questions of, hey, what's important to you right now? What's happening in the season, and what are you after in this relationship, or with these new animals or livestock or product, whatever it might be. When we let go of thinking that we know the answer, I get into flow a lot better because I get curious.
I think if you're not leading in with curiosity first, you're putting yourself last and probably putting the buyer last as well. Curiosity shows up everywhere if you are, and it's quite easy to, like, if you're just cut and dry, you're on the farm and you're not curious about the whole operation or what that true goal is. Because I think for farming, no matter how big you are as a family corporate as well, it is the goal to go home at the end of the day so you have time to be with the family, your mates, to have that debriefing. Like a lot of the early maturing varieties within grain are for environmental before it gets too stinking hot harvesting. But no one wants to be harvesting during Christmas, so they're trying to get the harvest done then. So that's a point to lead into, but finding that point as well. What is their end goal? Because they might say the very surface level of that on farm,
Yeah.
but trying to get the crux of it, of like, it is actually about family time. They just had kids. They want to get home to the family. The wife, the husband is at home, and they just want to have that early bonding time or whatever it may be. How do you get yourself into that frame of mind as the salesperson? Or even like if you're selling, we'll start a new segment of F to F, farm to farm. If you're selling farm to farm, understand them as a buyer.
When I can first understand, I just got to let go of pitching. And so you just got to let go. That might happen. I think that might happen. If I can start the conversation with getting to know them, and you've got to be mindful, if you've got a D personality, real driver or direct person that wants to cut through the shit, doesn't care about what you did on the weekend, and wants to get the results, then we might need to move quicker. But I want to be asking we talk about open-ended questions. And what I mean by that is they cannot answer a yes, no. And so that means that also I don't want to think I know the answer. So I'll ask a question about, hey, what's important to you right now? What is, if I think about, like, if going back to my onions, right? If I'm thinking about a farmer going, what do you love about your current onions? You know, the breeders or the companies that you're currently working for, what do you love about them? What, that they'll tell me they're storing well, the color, the single centers, and, they hold on to their skin storage. I say, great. So I'm understanding what's important to them. And then I'm thinking about my varieties and whether or not they're going to fit into that. I said, okay, well, I've got some varieties that are going to fit into that, and I've got some that may not. And so when I can understand that, also another great question is, like, what annoys you? Like, what's giving you the shits about that variety, or, that company or that brand? I think that can help us kind of get second in line too, which is a really important thing in sales, that we can't always be first. There's strong loyalty, strong customer relationships, but sticking to those relationships and checking in with people and showcasing that you care above and beyond the KPI, the budget that I've got sitting behind my back on my shoulders, that we all have, whether we're farm to farm and whether you stipulate out your KPIs or not. Ultimately, we have to be making more. Farming is a little bit different, but we need to be making more this season than we're spending, right? I know that in farming, it's often kind of extrapolated over about a 10-year period, and we're not always making money every single year or every single season. But if we're not making more money than we're spending, then the business is going to go, it's not working. And so understanding where they're having some wins and making some profit, and then what is it that I'm offering that can help go into that? And knowing if I've uncovered some great questions and answers to what I'm asking, can I help? Have I got a solution? If I do, awesome. What a privilege that I get to pitch. I think there's a mindset shift. A lot of people freak out and are like, oh, now I'm fumbling over what I've got to offer. So kind of with the sales cycle for me, Jack, it's like you listen, you connect, you listen, and you understand what people are after. And then I think, right, have I got a solution there or not? And if not, happy days. Lovely to meet you. Keen to continue hearing about how I might be able to support you in the future. But if I can, then I'll say, hey, this is actually how I support ag businesses, or these are the onions that I think will really work well in your business. Can we have a look? Can we get it Would you be interested in a trial? What does that look like for you? Do you need a strip trial? Do you need a full bed? What do we do? And then it's their choice, Jack. I think people are so terrified of no, of getting rejection, that we don't pitch, we don't drive up the driveway, or we don't answer the phone or pick up the phone. I think when we are confident enough to say, hey, you've got a problem and I have a solution that would work, that I believe in my experience and my know of this product will help you and your business. You then have the option to go with me or not. And if you go with me, happy days. Let's really build this beautiful relationship. And if not, that's okay too. How come? How come it was a no? What was it about the product or service? And let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Where do you sit with following up? Because I sell farm software now within finance, and I know from previously selling stud animals, following up, people are so shocked or so happy that you came, even if it was a no to begin with or a not now. I've got a firm belief that everything's a not now, it's not a no. It's in the future, something's going to
Yeah.
happen. And if you follow up, checking in, like, what's the weather down there? If they're a farm, it's definitely always about the weather, the family, the kids. Now they've sent them off to boarding school. What's happening without your labor units
Yeah.
on? But how do you sit and, like, as a sales coach within that following up? How important is that? And how can we technically get it right? Like, little prompt CRMs can really help out the sales approach and everything.
It's a great question. And this came up. I was in the training room this week and there was a awesome bunch of people. One of them was an ex new and used car salesman, which I absolutely adored, because that is often the stereotype that we're talking about in the room about why people feel so uncomfortable. And he was an incredible energy in the room, Jack. And he mentioned a stat that I haven't fact checked, but he said something like follow up kills every deal because 94% of people, 94% of transactions are not followed up. Now, I'm not sure whether or not that was specific to the car industry or sales in general, but it was an incredible stat. And I thought, well, I know that that's one of my areas where I also can improve. I love the chase. I love a new lead. I love building relationships and connections, and follow up is something that I'm working on, continuing to improve. I've got an amazing VA who helps me, but it's a massive part, Jack, as you mentioned, that people get shocked and surprised that you're checking in with them again. It's a cycle, right? And so, when we're talking about the machinery side of ag, they say that your sales team will sell the first, same like a house, your sales team will sell the first, but it's your parts and maintenance that'll sell the next 5 to 10 machines. And so it's that follow up and nurturing. I use the machinery industry as a good example because it's that you've got constant contact. Hey, you can just check in and say, how's the machine going? There can also be, whenever a customer of ours rings, that we answer it within a certain amount of rings. And if we don't, that we get back to them within the hour or whatever it might be. And that there is a stipulated amount of, if we've got a breakdown, that we can get that back to you by X amount of days, whatever it might be. When we're having transparency, I think in the follow-up, I think that's really, really helpful. Hey, I'll touch base with you in another 3 months, 6 months to check in on how the sales team's going. That's something that I work with, and that's often in an email. And then it'll be like a phone call as well to check in personally. I think you have to have a procedure in your organization, and CRM systems, as you said, are fantastic, particularly with the way that AI is helping us automate things, that the AI side of things can help us structure and order the follow-up, and then they might be able to help us shoot off emails, but also just so you've got a reminder, hey, I've got to ring that person, and then you can tick it off. Or let's book in a coffee or a catch-up. How are things going? It helps you then get more sales, right? So that's the cycle. What I spoke about it during the week. Don't you want to keep working with people that love you? You know?
Sure. There's so many elements that come into it, like even the way that you word things. Before, like, how are you going? Good, or like, I've had a good day. But I was going to put a post on this of like, have a good day, to like when you message your mate, your mum, your colleagues, whatever it may be, and the change in response of what would be have a great day, like have the best day possible that you can have, opposed to very normal, have a good day, bugger that, have a great day, and how we set ourselves up, our conversations. But once you start to look at that sort of stuff, I feel it flows through into what we do, how we set ourselves up. I was just thinking before about how we meet our people, or like we got to go to where the customers are. I was thinking for all the machinery, because they are having farmers come in and every day, the accountants and banks probably have it wrong. They should set up shop out of town on the big industry estates next door to Case, next door to John Deere, Hutchin and Peer, whoever it may be, because they're always having that point of contact because they're breaking it down out in the paddock and coming in for that. So fol- going from following up and then meeting the customers of where they're at, how important is that, whether it's for a sale or it's just for awareness, for a catch up, like going to events. I think events is starting to churn back into being a really good thing for businesses to show up, because farmers continue to go to, one, be a place to meet up with your other farming mates to catch up, but also to see what's new in the industry, be it from how the steering wheel changes or the lack of steering wheel that is coming on farm. How do you approach that within coaching, but also for yourself?
I've always found that an event like a field day or a conference is the best way to catch up with farmers if that's your customer, because they're off farm and they're not thinking about, or they might be thinking about, but they're not tinkering under a tractor, or they're not out fixing a fence. I've got to get out to H block because the sprinklers shit itself. So getting them off farm and having time to really build trust and rapport and not sell anything, just talk and check in on the family. How's mum going? How's that cancer treatment? Just remembering all of those things and checking in with people and how they're at. Interesting that you said about, events coming back. It's a tough gig right now, geopolitically, with everything that's happening in agriculture. We've got Hort Connections next week
Are you
over
going?
in Adelaide. I am going, and
Are you there?
fantastic. I will see you there. And it is sold out. Like the booths, there is not one more booth that could go in there. So I know that's more from an agribusiness perspective, because farmers aren't buying those, but farmers are attending. So it is, I think it's going to be one of the biggest that they've had. I'm interested to see the energy on the ground, because it is tough, even in the market, the veg market on the floor, of just having some conversations with some onion growers and pricing. That's only one segment, so I'm sure that others are having some wins. But fertilizer, machinery, and fuel, I think, are going to be some big topics. It'll be interesting to see what the energy's like and how tense it could be. I think it's always a great catch up, and, that flows through, and particularly into the night. But I'm really keen to chat about how it's going.
Yeah, for sure. I think like they're so well needed. And it's also for farms, like not every farm, the same farm is going to go each time. And I think that's really important because they do need the time back on the farm to actually do the work as well. But if we hit little pockets, I think that's what it's all about, especially for the businesses and just showing face. I think people are really getting rewarded for consistently going to events, showing up and being there for the farms or for the agribusiness, whoever it may be. Because farms notice. They probably don't notice that you're there all the
Oh, they'll
time,
notice
but
when you're
they
not there.
they notice when you're not
Yeah,
there.
and it says more. And we used to always say that, back in my Fairbanks days. We'd have booths. We did times when we didn't have booths. And it was always we need to be here. We never moved the needle commercially, so to speak, because in our game it was always, how did the farmers know what we had? We were on there trialing. Like that's how we commercially made things move and made the sales wins. But it was the other piece. It was the connection piece. It was, hey, how's that looking on your farm at the moment? And what are your biggest challenges? And you really do get noticed when you're not there. And it's also just like, are you not going to be supporting the industry? Like, there can be a little bit of a throwback to that.
But also, if you're not there, I think of like, if you're not following up with someone, someone else is following up
Yes.
with them.
And am I now third or fourth in line or whatever it might be, right?
Like as a salesperson talking to farmers or any business, any industry, that should be your biggest motivator to hit your targets, but also to make impact with your product. Because if you're selling a product, it should be a good one. And if you're in the market, it must be have some substance
Yep.
to it as
Yep.
well.
There is no value there. That's right.
I want to talk about how you set up your day as in sales, but also like how did you get the most out of
Yep.
yourself?
Oh, I love that question, Jack. Okay, so it's really shifted from being in corporate to like back in my Fairbanks days to the last 3 years. I've now realized, and I've also a mother, I've got 3 young children all at primary school. So there's a lot of things that kind of help me assist in creating the ultimate day. But Jack, if I'm not training, so this week I was in the room in the training room over in Adelaide. That's where this conference was being held from 9 to 5 on Wednesday and Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll usually do that twice a month. But other than that, it is me working from home in my home office. I don't start work until about 11 a.m. So before that, that's getting kids sorted up to school. We've got to walk the dog to school. I'll try and get a gym session in prior to that, and then come back home and start work. And then that'll be upstairs, and that's mainly LinkedIn. So Jack, my main source of sales leads is through LinkedIn and then conferences. They're the two main business development levers that I have, with the book coming to be, and the podcast are other ones that help. And so that's where.
Was you there, Georgia? If anyone's keen to know more about Georgia and what she does each and every day, about following up, follow her on LinkedIn, because it's where all good relationships start, is online. And that's where I found you, Georgia, with what you were writing about. And then I saw selling in the paddock. It's like, I have to connect. And I actually had a uni student on today, and my top tip was for her just to smash LinkedIn, connect, and you never know when you're going to be able to lean on that person, be it a CEO or someone peer to peer walking beside you. Oh,
And it's horses for courses too, in terms of what is your business. And if it's a farming business, then LinkedIn, might be suitable, but it might not be the be all and end all for you. So it's managing that and having a meeting with my VA to make sure that we're across all of our, key inputs in terms of connections and posts. And then it's planning, it's looking at the calendar and going, what training have I got coming up? What slide decks do I need to prepare? Working through preparing and practicing for that. So I'll usually do 11 till about 3 is my full work day. And then it's picking kids up, school sports, etc. So something that I've learned, that I don't need to work from 9 to 5 or 8 till 4 to be super successful. I've actually been able to create and carve out a time that can be really creative and intentional in that block. And then also, if I've got a passion, I've noticed about my brain, like I can go down rabbit holes and things. So if I'm following something or I've got an intentional thing that I want to finish, I'll let myself go. It's often like on a Friday, I might want to finish off something and I might be working till 5, but usually I'm done at 3, and yeah. And then we'll go put a pin in it and we'll come back tomorrow. It'll still be there, right?
like, it's a lot to do with not burning out. Like,
Yes.
you're not on farm, but it's also very important for you to not burn out, and you want to carry that energy into the next day. Like, when I go to bed, I'm so excited for my first coffee and to like see what notifications come up and like get planning for that day. I would nearly like to drink the coffee that night with that's the thought of how good the next morning's gonna be, and setting yourself up. Do you have a Sunday set up for Monday, or are you setting up on Monday morning for your week? How do you work?
That's a really good question. It's the Sunday setup is mainly for the personal side of things. So like shopping, lunch boxes, that kind of thing.
Life
Life
admin?
admin, also communicating with my partner Daniel, like, what have you got? Was there traveling, etc., so that we're all across where everyone is. And then I'm not getting set into my work until Monday. When I jump into bed, I'll often look at my phone and the next day, so like last night, I knew that I had this podcast coming up, had my VA meeting in the morning and then a gym session earlier, and going, right. And then that's it. So after that, I need to go and get some new tires on my car, and something I've been procrastinating on, but I really need checklists too, Jack. That helps me. And so I've got often to-do lists that I can kind of tick off and go, right. And that's my Friday done. That helps me not lose track of what I need to do. Yeah.
Had like 2 years ago, processes and frameworks was the theme for the year, and I try to extract a little bit from that. And I think for frameworks on farm or in life in general, because you can have a personal one and then business and how you amalgamate the two. I think it's so important to have that, and it's about finding your flow. If you're needing frameworks or stability to carry through your day, to have little checkpoints to check in, I think that's so good. For the families, husband and wife, with kids, with 3 kids, you wouldn't even know that you had 3 kids, Georgia, just because the workload that you're doing online. How do you balance that and communicate communicating with the husband?
Yeah, great question. I balance it to the best of my ability and I don't always get it right. But something that we're getting better at as a family, and my children are starting to understand. I'm only 3 years into running my own business, so I'm still really learning too. But my kids are getting better at knowing, for example, they've got something really special that they want me to attend. So if this is what might happen, right? I want you to come to my Kelly dance concert, and I want you to come to. We've got a school production, and they also want me to come, which I've agreed to. I'm going to go on camp this year with the kids. The three, I've got a son in year 4 and my daughter in year 6, and their camps will kind of cross over. So I can kind of be at the same event for the whole week. Now, for that to work, Jack, I need to know well in advance when those things are. And so my kids are getting really good at asking teachers, like, when is this date? Because I said to my daughter Rosie, I'd love to come to that, but I need to know the date in advance. Because if I have a call with someone and they want to work with me, they'll book me in 6 months in advance. And so that's where sometimes I miss out on things, but I'm getting really good at setting boundaries and saying, right, I'm not going to travel on that day, or I'm not going to travel on that week. And that simply just means I'm fortunate enough now that I can just say no to work and say I can't make that one work, and trust that I know that other ones come through. Yeah. But lots of communication with
Like
Daniel.
probably from your experience as well. My experience is like you really learn to start to say, no, I can't make that. And people love that you pull them up there and like, okay, we'll approach another time or whatever, rather than just going yes to three things and it all clashes and then nothing ends up getting done or it's done
Yeah,
half-assed
and nothing's done well.
to the end as
And
well.
I'm probably not gonna be present, or I'm gonna be stressing about missing out on that thing. So there's horses for courses, and there's always I'm not getting it right all the time, and I'm gonna miss things, and that's something that we talk about, openly in the family. But making sure whenever I book a trip, I'm always on the phone, depending on if Daniel's in his work or if he's in the home office. Like, right, do these dates work? Are you at home? We always try and make it so that one of us is at home with the kids so that we're not traveling away together. That 2 or 3 times in the year, we might have a crossover where we might need some help, and we got a lot of support around us, thankfully, with grandparents and my brother. But communicating and keeping it transparent in terms of what's happening is what is getting me through.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think the biggest thing is that's getting missed and was also maybe inspiration of writing a book, but also consulting side of sales within agriculture?
People first, I think, that in sales, people, whenever I'm in the room, are like, "I'm not a sales rep. I don't do sales. I'm in R&D," or, they constantly deflect that they're not sales. And I push so heavily against that I think everyone is constantly selling, whether you're in R&D, whether you're in HR, whatever. It's simply connecting with people and having a relationship and asking questions and understanding what they need. And then how can me as an individual or our business help get you to that next phase? And so my mission is to build and boost the confidence of the entire Australian agricultural industry. I want people to feel comfortable and confident selling the amazing products and services that we have as a country. And I don't know that we're definitely not there. Coming from corporate and having done plenty of sales trainings, I always had a corporate sales trainer that had no idea about ag at the front of the room. They were amazing at what they did, and they were great in terms of understanding people and selling and the techniques. But half the lesson, you're teaching the sales trainer at the front of the room the nuances of our industry, because it is different. It is different. It's very relationship driven. It's very people first. And we need to respect that and understand agriculture with the so many variables of the environment and seasonality, the geopolitical stuff that happens with, when channels get blocked, how that affects everyone across the supply chain. And then being able to stand back and alongside someone and check in with them. How are you going? I'm a sales rep, but I'm also a human, and so are you.
Yeah, like we can often forget what that is. Like we are locked up in our identity as farmers, but also within any other role there. And then if you peel it back, we're all the same people. And I think like if you're looking at someone and they're inspirational for you, or like even the big founders of like tech companies that everyone knows, they are also people and they've gone and done it. They've taken action. They haven't made a couple of decisions each month. They've made thousands and they've done being quite precise on that. And I think we are all the same, but it's how we set ourselves up that can be the real difference in that. One of Barack Obama's quotes was, he only went to 51% and then he made a decision on that. So if he's 51, 49 percentage, not 90, 100%, and being confident with that decision, backing yourself in that, whatever it is in life, selling or not selling, doing something on farm or off farm with that. And then I think you start to really gain that confidence in your decision making.
Yeah, and
And if it all goes,
being okay with it going
come back.
pear-shaped. Absolutely, Jack.
Yeah.
And no one's ever
Yeah.
okay with it, but I love Richard Branson's quote. What's the worst case scenario of this situation? Can I handle that? Can I afford that? If yes, let's go. If not, then that risk is too high and we need to recalibrate. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What's the best piece of like business advice you've received or been given in your journey that you brought to the ag side of sales?
Two things that are coming up for me now are being yourself. And I love that you said everyone is the same. The crux of the book are that we're all two things. We are different in terms of we'll have different personalities and we'll have different communication styles, i.e., do we use our eyes or our ears or do we need to feel things to buy things? So we are all a little bit different, but we're all human. And when I started to share my vulnerabilities with my customers and my team about the challenges of being a mum, about the challenges of my parents aging, and my dad's currently living with dementia. And so sharing those challenges as humans we all go through helps me to connect with the other person on the other side, because someone, I'm sure, on this podcast will probably reach out and they'll be caring for someone with dementia or living with Alzheimer's, and we'll have an instant connection because we know how challenging it is. Same with the parents or running your own business. And so when we're more open about our vulnerabilities, I've found the connection piece supremely easier. And so I suppose the advice is being comfortable with being vulnerable, with being open about what's challenging in your current life. Because when I started doing that and stopped, and look, my social media is still pretty shiny, but I do throw in a lot of what's not working. It really helps build connection because we're all going through it.
Absolutely. And I think like prime time with where everything is at the moment, the volatility within farming, agriculture, the markets, also to do with the economy, government. God, I wish they could just make a good decision for once as well. But I think like the budget, when everyone was banging on about the budget, I was thinking in my head, I was like, geez, I wish everyone else worried about the budget for their own business as much. And then maybe the federal budget would be more influenced into doing something that was in favor for small business, all that. But I think like we really need to come back and look at our own paddocks before looking at other paddocks, be it may be greener over there, but they've just been getting the rain and you haven't. Your soils will bounce back and take that into any business, not just for the farming side of it. And I think that's really important. It's what I wanted to get from this. I wanted to get like a bit of a buzz from you, Georgia, and I certainly think we have done that for the episode. You can also with the book. It is a cracking book. It's a quick read, but I think that's so well needed in
It
ag. We don't want
absolutely.
to sit down and read Potter every week.
Well, it's supposed to be, so it's a quick read, Jack. I wanted people to be able to have it on the passenger seat of the ute and to be able to read 2 chapters before driving up a driveway or making a phone call, and being able to really shift that mindset into going, you know what? I've got this. I've got this.
Just looking at like going the extra mile, there's something about they hired a team in restaurants to like understand what the clients want. If they wanted something ridiculous, this team would go out. There's a book on it. I'll find what the book is. I'll read it and then I'll tell you about it. But like even this tiny thing for anyone watching the video, Georgia wrote me a note when she sent the book out. And I think like you weren't selling to me, or you probably were underlying for the audience. But it's important to know like how important it is having a personal touch on your approach, be it with your mates or your sales approach, and how that, like you probably do that for everyone within your family, like for a note into your kid's lunchbox, possibly. If you don't, might be a good thing to start doing.
I do
But I
sometimes.
think like very basics like that was a nice thing to do. Now we're best mates and we get a buzz from each other about what we're doing. And now we've got something to bond over a little bit more than just sending out your book. And I think if you apply that to what you're doing in life, in your sales role, listening to this, if you're a student looking to get into an industry, sales is everywhere. It's on farm. It's in the city. It's on the radio. It's on the podcast. I've got to sell to get sponsorship on for this podcast. I probably need to do a better job than that at that and following up with it. But it shows up everywhere,
Yeah.
doesn't it? That's what my point is.
It's human connection. It's understanding someone else and how can we help them? Yeah.
100%. So we'll end the conversation there, Georgia, but I've got a quick fire for you. I don't have a question of sell me this pen. How many times have you been asked that before?
Actually,
Sell me this.
not as many as you'd think. And I hated that when I did sales trainings, back in the day, sell me this stapler, sell me this pen. So I don't actually get asked that very often. So I'm glad you're not asking me to do that.
When I worked in London, I was in the marketing team, but learning what they do in sales because over there, cutthroat. I worked in financial to medical to ex-military recruitment, selling to them coming into jobs as a tech board. And it's just like the ability to pick up the phone no matter whatever old mate says. Funny story, I was actually importing Spanish hay baling equipment, selling to farmers. This farmer down in Victoria absolutely fed me because she thought I was from the city, not knowing what I knew about hay or the industry as well. And I just sort of I felt like shit
Yeah.
because I was new, I was green to the industry. I wasn't actually very good at selling. Half the reason I started the podcast was so I could start to speak properly, get the vocabulary out of me and develop some skills. But it was funny, it's a bit of a loop of you have to go through those sort of decisions, those moments to improve. You would have gone through them before, people are going through them, but it's good to understand that others are going
Yeah.
through the exact same.
I say that in my training. I live and breathe this people side of things in the sale, and I still muck it up. You're not going to walk out of here and be able to okay, kind of do a little dance. We're going to go and, smoke every sale. That's not how it is. It's having a better awareness about it now so that when you do muck up, you stop and you go, right, I should have asked an open-ended question there, not a yes, no. Next time I'll do something differently.
Yep. That's good. I'll kick it off. I just got a good question. How do you celebrate a sale?
Love this. Cut a few different ways. Go out for breakfast with my family. Sometimes it's a massage, I'll treat myself to a massage or something like that. They're the two things that I usually do.
It's a good one. And it's good to identify that you probably do need a pat on the back every now and then.
Yeah, well, we recently just hit 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, which was massive for me. And so the kids made cupcakes. I'm really mindful of celebrating to show the kids that we don't just keep going. You got to stop and celebrate and go, what are we doing this for? To then go, right, cool. And also what's next?
I should probably follow up with the wife because I was going to do I don't know, the monthly, when I hit a level within the podcast or whatever, or a milestone, I should get back into that. Righto, well, let's quick fire with Georgie Stormont. Coffee or tea? How do you get going?
Oh, but I love both. But I'm a decaf. I don't have caffeine anymore. So it's a decaf latte or a beautiful herbal something.
So you don't get going at all? Or you just got the buzz all day?
Jack, I do not need caffeine. When we catch up at Hall Connections, you'll realise why.
I might get that off you as well. Early riser or night owl?
Neither. I'm up at about
11, 8, 3
Yeah,
p.m.
I get up at about 7. I've done plenty of early rising and gymmed at 5:45. I'm not in a stage of my life doing that right now. So I get up at about 7, 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I'm in bed by about 9, 9:30.
Biggest sales myth?
Biggest sales myth that you need to know your product inside out to feel confident about talking about it. I'm going to say, yeah, I think if you,
Visit, yep. Visit, phone call, or email.
Visit.
Best sales book. I'll
Selling in the
enjoy this
paddock.
one for the farm. Absolutely. But what's one that led you on your journey, do you believe?
I read a lot. And you run your own business too now, don't you, Jack? Something that helped me on my journey early on was an American one called Profit First that helped me understand money and how to, going from a weekly wage where your tax is already taken out to, invoices that are coming in at all different times, how to manage that money. So for me, from running a business, I found that really helpful.
An Aussie one that is a different industry again, marketing, but I love marketing. So Sell Like Crazy, Sabri Subri.
Okay, haven't. No, I'll put that on my list.
It is really good. And we'll go to Farmers Book Club and there's a fair few books in there because I've been reading sales books before I actually probably needed sales books just because I love the mentality of what it is and the process of it. So yeah, they're all in there. Most underrated sales skill?
Self-awareness.
Most overrated?
Product knowledge.
First thing you notice in a salesperson?
Their energy.
That's a good one. The best agricultural salesperson you've met other than Georgia Stormont.
I don't want to give him a bigger head. I consult for him. Mark Cable at Harvest Moon. Do you know Mark Cable?
Very good. I've heard the name.
Just he's a relationship, just he's an incredible human, and I'm very fortunate to be in his presence and to work alongside him. That's who I sell onion seed for, and I've known him. He was a customer of mine at Fairbank Seeds, and he's just an incredible. He's a very hard worker, and he'll tell you how it is. And I love that side of things about you don't always need to be liked. You've got to be clear and clear and kind. Yeah,
Sounds like you've been in the ute with him going out to farm a
I
fair
have.
bit, learning his way.
Yep.
One word that creates trust.
How are you really going?
Yeah, I think that's great, getting through the surface level. And what's one word that ruins or destroys trust?
One word. One word. I'm trying to think because I'm thinking
Got
about all the failing. Hey,
you want
have you got what comes up for you?
3 words.
Cutting someone off. So it might not be a word, but when you're in a conversation with somebody and you're not letting them finish, and it's human nature, we do it all the time. But in sales, shut up.
I was trying to cut
Yeah.
you off. I was hoping you'd. Yeah, that's a good one. What's harder, selling to farmers or selling to corporates? Or what do you enjoy
I
more?
enjoy selling to farmers more, although I'm getting really good on the other side. So I love sharing that because now my customer is an agri-business. So someone that's got a company that's got a national sales team. That's my company. That's my customer now. And I love doing that too. I said to you earlier, I love the chase. So I love a new connection. And in farming, I was never meeting anyone new after about 12 months, really, unless they got a new foreman or a new, farm manager. And that had happened, but often they'd be from somewhere I already knew. So I am enjoying the new process, I think, because I just love meeting new people. That side of things is still really exciting. But I love the depth of relationship that I'm able to have with my farmers, given that I'm able to continue to sell to them on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. I One thing that I wish for Australia, it can't be done overnight, but is if the market was bigger, because if you look at the American market and like the opportunity is 10 times more than what it is for the Australian market. That's just a thing of having more people to sell to or operators within there, which is unique to the larger populations, of course. But I just think like even from e-commerce to selling books, we are quite a small community here. It goes back into you need to build that trust. You never know who you're talking to in there. So you can be very careful about who you're dissing or who you're working for and showing up the right way. How many?
And do we need a diss? Like, I think as a sales rep, I think that's a great way to lose trust. If you're talking shit about somebody that's not here, what are you saying about me when I'm not here?
Yeah, you get quickly found out. How many follow-ups is too many follow-ups?
This is a question I get all the time. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, and I am at a position now where I will follow up until I follow up hard now. So I think 2 to 3 emails, and then I shift it. Then I'm hunting for a phone number, I'm texting, I'm on LinkedIn. I did it recently, a
Red
funny story, and yeah,
dogs.
and people just ghost you. But I feel like if I've had a conversation, then we've had a Zoom, then I've sent a proposal, if the answer's no, I'm okay with that. Let me know. Give me the courtesy to let me know. And if it's okay, can you let me know why professionally? Is it just me or, did something else come up? I think I've earned that. There's been no money transactions. So I've given you some time. You can give me a little bit back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually just pulled out of a couple and now they're in the later bucket. Like I don't have a no bucket. I don't believe in that.
Yeah,
Like if you believe and
I
have
do.
conviction in your
I have a no bucket and I'll put people in it. And I'll say, I don't want to work with that. They're not my company. And that's okay.
yeah, I've got I don't want to work with that
Yeah, cool.
bucket for sure. Yeah.
But you'll keep, so something that the new and used car salesman was like, there's only 2 types of leads. There's a lead and then there's dead. I just love that.
Well, it's probably easy to go buy a car now that you know that
Yeah. Yeah.
if you want to be left alone. Anyway, best way to build rapport with a farmer.
Get them talking about themselves and their family.
Should salespeople talk less or more?
Less.
What's the question every salesperson should ask? You probably answered it before.
What's important about your business right now? And there'll be context around that. You can kind of massage it, but what's important to you right now? I think we assume that we know all the time. It might be making profit, but you said it might be spending time with the kids or having enough money left to get them to boarding school. Like, what's important?
There's two ways to look at that, I think. For their career cycle, where are they in it? And also agriculture, we're very seasonal. If you're talking winter and summer, I'm not going to bother. Relationship or price?
Relationship every day of the week.
Data or gut feel?
Gut.
AI in sales, opportunity or threat?
Opportunity.
Also, I didn't give Georgia these questions beforehand, so she's doing quite well. What's one thing farmers are terrible at selling?
Themselves.
Yeah, nailed it. I was going to say that if you didn't. What's one thing farmers are naturally great at selling? Their sheep, their cows. I think they're great at getting them to the
Yeah.
sale, like
Yeah.
being an analogy for the sale
Yeah.
yards, but to maximize that deal, be it that's how you extend your service and follow through throughout the year. You don't just have a ram sale, sell your cattle at sale yards once a year. You need to follow up. The opportunity is so
Mm.
big for your client
Yeah.
and
How
for
did they
you.
go? How are they working in your business? What does next year look like? It's the same. It's very similar in my onion game, and it can go both ways because if they don't go well, then it's about continuing to build that relationship and understanding what happened. It's happening with the onions at the moment, following up and trying to get to the bottom of it and making it a win for both of us. So that I don't know that we do that enough, and I've only started to get better at that. That there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. It's about negotiating and making it work for everybody.
And for the vocab for sales people is that upsell can also be the advantage for the end user as well.
Has to be the advantage for the end user. Yeah.
Most valuable thing you've learned
What was that most
could be from most valuable thing you've learned could be
unbelievable? Yeah.
sales, could be becoming a mother, whatever you want.
The most valuable thing I think is saying no.
One skill that every ag student should learn, or like I didn't do ag because I probably thought at the time I didn't know it, but every student, what's one thing you would impart on them?
I think that every student, that everyone leaving year 12 or at uni should be doing like a self-awareness. I don't know if I'm stipulating personality profiling. It might be too young because I'm mindful that I don't really do profiles on anyone under 25 because we're still working that out. But some self-awareness tools to understand. My daughter had a high school interview yesterday, Jack, and the questions that we got asked were incredible. How do you learn best, Rosie? And what are your favorite subjects and why? They were just really powerful, like understanding the challenges and what was going on. And I was like, if our kids can start thinking about how we learn best, because I don't think I've ever been asked that. And I love that you asked that question about my day. How can I set myself up so that I am in those moments, in that mind frame, in that energy as often as I can be?
Yep. I asked that question because if I could go around to every farm and slap the saladas out of the farmers' hands and give them some real energy, because you get to the end of the day as a farmer, you're like, holy shit, I'm buggered. It might not even be because you've done so much work. It's because you haven't fueled yourself. I don't think as farm, like literally the food that we eat, is it fueling yourself to get past 5 p.m., 3 p.m., have energy for the kids, have energy for your business. Those sort of things I think could really improve ag as well.
Nutrition.
But we'll
I
get
love that. Yep.
one thing agribusiness companies should stop doing. What are they getting wrong for farms?
Oh, one thing agribusinesses should stop doing, discounting.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
There's context around that, of course, because
For fertilizer should be discounted.
and things like like in the seed game, if the germination and vigor change, then there needs to be a price change because the value's changed. But if nothing's changed, then we need to stop discounting. And that's the biggest problem that people call me for is my team are defaulting Georgia. We don't need to do it.
We've actually put the prices up on things before, and people see a higher perceived value in that. And so you see more people wanting it as a product, and they see, higher value from that price that's been set. What's one thing companies should start doing?
Investing in their teams.
Really good one. What will separate the best salespeople in ag over the next 10 years?
People that are willing to invest in AI and learn about it and invest in their people.
If you could give every farmer one sales lesson, what would it be?
Self-awareness.
That's a really good one. And I think like sales areas in ag that could really benefit is stock agents, agronomists. Well, farmers probably think that agros sell too much, but knowing how to sell is different to being sales focused or chem focused selling. I think once that, it also improve the relationship with the farm to like carry through that service throughout the year rather than just very transactional. Righto, here you go. Best of luck.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time you buy.
The quickest way I was able to build trust at Fairbank Seeds was if I recommended a variety that didn't come from my warehouse. I would only do that when we didn't have it for that time slot for that whatever. It was the quickest way to build trust because the customer knows that I give a shit, that I care about their business, that I understand them, and that I'm not trying to make a buck. Although
Yeah.
I am,
As
but it's,
Yeah, in ag, we've got the holistic view of it. And also as a salesperson, the benefit of that as well. We can play into that. And I think agriculture is a great spot for improvement within sales as well. And if you do want to improve, for those watching on YouTube or socials, Selling in the Paddock is available. You'll get the link in the show notes down below. So, Georgia, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure you would have passed on a bit of a buzz to others out there trying to improve incrementally what they're doing, both on farm, in agribusiness. Pretty special to have you on.
thank you very much, Jack. It's been a pleasure.
Farmers, the conversation does not stop there. Whether or not you think you're in sales or you have part sales in your role as a farmer, or if you're in industry selling to farmers, let us know what this episode was like for you. Continue the conversation over on our Facebook group. Let's get vocal as farmers. Let's see how we can maximize the dollars going off farm, whether you're selling in domestically or internationally as well. It can change, but it's also interesting to monitor what those sort of trends are, how it does change, and how you can flip your own biscuits, flip the snag. It's not a saying, but we'll make it one. So continue the conversation is really what I want to say. Go across, follow Farms Advice everywhere you are. It is the Farmers Podcast. We have grown this into something really, something to be proud of for you for listening along, but something for me. I have been doing this for the last 7 years, nearly on average, weekly going out, bar 1 month each year. So it's been quite the journey. I've been selling this podcast to you so that you can listen in, get sponsors on as well. So selling sales shows up everywhere in our life. And I think that's one key skill that we could really improve on in agriculture. And it all stems to better communication. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Go and follow Farms Advice. You can follow me. I'll be crazy __ on most things. But until next episode, keep up it, keep at it, keep on farming.